I'm going to start with the feet together and the hands atop the heads. And starting out with nice small hip circles. Just take it easy, the body roll. Feel the hips being pulled in all directions. Good morning, Craig. Let the upper bodies act to counterbalance the lower. Relax the weight and change directions. Again, start with nice small circles, relaxing as the hips roll around the feet. And two more. Good, expanding that stance a little bit. Keeping the weight balanced evenly between the toes and the heels, not listing forward or back. Starting with the hands on the hips, belly pulling the spine. As you pivot the pelvis back, and then forward. Making sure the core is engaged all the way through. Looking for more of a challenge, you can bring the hands to the center of the chest. And then for more challenge still, to right behind the ears. Make sure the belly is still engaged and the back is still straight though. Two more. Last one. Good. From here, expanding, so narrowing the stance a little bit, the other direction. Maintaining that belly draw, pressing into the ground as we sink, raising, rolling the pelvis forward as we lift and stretch back. Rounding to sink, pelvis forward, lifting. Pelvis back, back straight as we sink, lifting and drawing. See how I'm keeping my spine in alignment, sinking down, lifting, and up. Very nice, Carol. Very nice. And then Carol using the elbow drop to open up the upper back. As you draw back a little, belly draws the spine, arcing down, raising. Good, Carol. Very nice. And two more. Good. Widening the stance a little bit. Back parallel with the ground. Belly drawing to the spine. Slow turn and look past the foot. Now as I roll, there's a slight bend in my knees and my balance is once again even between the toes and the heels. I'm not trying to lean forward or lean back. Slowly roll to the middle. Turn, look past the heel. The first part of this is better done a little more slowly, Eric. There you go. Take your time. Roll through the hips. Very nice, Eric. Very nice. Good, Karen. Using a twist of the arms to stretch and lengthen at the end position. Rebounding through the middle, stretch and lengthen. Two more. Good. And now 10 of these, a little faster with a swoop, swoop to turn. Good. And slowly returning back up. The feet are slightly wider than shoulder width. And just like our first exercise, the goal here is to bring the hips around our base. As you go into the swooping down portion of this, make sure you're not locking out your knee as you move through, a little bit of a buffer there as we roll. Okay? And 1, 2, good. If you're getting really comfortable with the body roll, you can start bringing in the arms. And 2 more. Last one. Good. Other direction. Start with just the hips. Make sure you're rolling completely around your base. From that hip roll, start adding in the swoop. Make sure that's feeling nice and smooth. If the hip roll and the body roll are both feeling nice, then you can start adding in the arms. Making sure the hips are still traveling in a complete circle. And 2 more. Good, back to that neutral. Shake it out for a second. Do some hip circles, get the quad and legs nice and loose. Starting with that right leg, working on external rotation. Again, for the first few revolutions, just play with that shape. And since we've all done a fair bit of this, we're going to start playing with that body feel, drawing up through our structures, grabbing gently with the foot, seeing how that draws the muscles of the legs in. In particular, the tibialis anterior and the gastroc, the muscles in the front and back of the lower leg. From there, as the leg begins to engage, feel how the adductors and muscles on the inside of the leg begin to come online. Continuing that roll, drawing the belly gently to the spine. Now feeling that roll traveling up into the middle, lifting the clavicles, creating space around the heart, raising the head neck so nothing gets stuck in the chest. And notice how the circle kind of calms as all these structures begin to come in together. It becomes a more smooth, relaxed shape. And change the other side. Again, first couple circles, just make sure you're making a circle. It's a good first step. From there, the foot draws the muscles of the lower leg online. From that engagement, slow your circles down a little. Try to feel the adductor, the inner leg muscles firing a bit. Belly to spine, to continue that draw up into the abdomen, into that Chinese Yao, that Chinese waist. From there, knitting the clavicles, creating space and softening around the heart. And then raising that head neck. The circle relaxes a bit. On the next loop, we're going to attach one side to the other, going into our figure eights. Take your time. Make sure one circle draws to the next. Draws to the next. Round and round we go. Make sure that rotation feels good before you add in that foot grab. And notice that foot grab makes it so you can no longer roll past the line of your heel, right? Once I grab with the feet, it really confines my hips to the space between my two feet. I'm kind of caught in that shape now. And then use that belly draw so the movement can permeate up from my hips into my torso. One of the hardest parts of Kung Fu is connecting the feet to the upper, getting past that middle. And playing with the abdominal engagement, especially in really simple exercises like figure eights, is a neat way of working on bridging that gap. And the clavicle knitting, chest softening, head neck lifting. Exactly, Eric. And then from here, as things soften, going into movements like Haigui become really simple, relatively, because that base is already confined and stable. If I don't have a stable base, my shoulders and arms don't know where to go, everything's kind of erratic. If I have that core of movement, it becomes much easier to play within that. I can do my lifting and drawing. I can just be the ocean turtle riding the waves, because Haigui just means ocean turtle. I can work with the setup for my fa li, that roll is the power to become that strike. And everything begins to flow out. Good, stay within the confines of your base. Don't let the twisting carry you off of that smooth core. If you want to coil more, coil from the feet, let coil travel up, and then enter your arms. But you don't want to move outside and break for a hit. Good, relaxing to the middle. Right leg, internal rotation. Very nice, Eric. Take your time with that round. Good. Once we have shape, and once that shape is comfortable, then start adding the various engagements. So instead of play with the shape, carry the movement upwards. So we have that round. We want to make that round more conical as we draw that power up, making it accessible to the upper. The foot grab is the first part of that. Then belly draw, clavicle knitting, chest softening, and head and neck rising. I know you must be tired of hearing me say those phrases by now, but again, it just helps whenever you go into your movements, remember that these are the bare, basic structural necessities we have to have all the time. These movements reach their potential. Switching legs. Again, find the shape, relax in that shape. From that gentle roll, bring in the foot grab. The foot grab, the belly draw. Belly draw to clavicle knitting. You can see how each layer changes how the movement draws up and how high the movement can go into that head and neck lift.
So Joey, I just wanted to comment on how after doing this enough, when we did the old tiger, no, that's not old tiger, but Chingy tiger on Tuesday, I actually feel that pull. So it was so cool. I was like, oh my goodness.
And Eric, you're actually absolutely correct. In Chinese, right, tiger is always lao hu, so it's always literally old tiger. And then from here, rolling into that internally rotating figure eight. And Xingyi is also old, so either way, spot on. The internal rotation, finding the foot grab. The belly draw, chest softening, clavicle knitting, head neck raising, and just play, slowing it down a little, how each roll draws and cycles up from the feet to the belly, through the chest, slowing it down. Let everything that you don't need to move begin to feel heavy. So our axial skeleton, that central pivot, is doing all of this rolling and twisting. Everything around the periphery is softening and gaining weight. And then from there, as the arms begin to move, they're not initiating from the fingertips, they're moving from that rolling of the weight in the middle. Pulling, drawing. The classic Haiyui warm-up is a hip inward rotation. You roll side to side, up and over, lift to press, lift with the hips to press. Feel the weight pulling from hip to hip as we roll side to side. It's not a set form of movements. It's listening to the middle and letting that middle echo out in shape. Let's relax and talk about that for a moment because it's nifty. So there are two major approaches to movement in internal Gong Fu, right? Two broad categories. There's inside out and outside in. Does anyone have an idea of what those might be referring to? Any ideas?
Say the question again.
Inside out movement versus outside in movement as broad strokes to describe training methodology. And if we don't, I'm happy to talk about it, so I'm here. So
my money's on Eric to be able to make the best guess of the.
Well, I mean, the inside-outside movement, it's kind of like the gathering and then the releasing, especially when you have like a lot of the Tai Chi movements is the thing that I feel makes the most sense. But I'm going to let Joey take this one because...
Correct, okay? So inside out is like what you would get with a very classic village Chun Tai Chi system where you stand in Wuji, right? You stand amidst the chaos, you find that stillness, and then from that stillness, movement begins. And then from that very deep, calm movement, things expand out until it permeates to the extremities, and you begin to have inside to outside connection. It takes a lot of doing this, right? It's a very effective way of training, but it's not really the Beijing methodology. It's more for people who started, in utero and kind of carry it throughout. For those of us who started a little bit later in life, we're going to spend the rest of our good training years doing this before we get to anything that actually, coordinates the body in with the center. And time is a thing, right? Outside in is the idea that in playing with the larger, more visible movements, eventually you feel something start to kind of tingle and move around the center. And then you break down what that is, and then from there, expand back out. And so it's the big, obvious movements that translate to the middle, get analyzed, and then become a source of initiation as they go back to the outside. Does that make sense?
Well, I can just say that has a bunch of really interesting correlations to Ki Aikido that are a little different from what you said, and let's have a conversation about that some other time.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so when we're training with stuff like the hip rotation, right? This is an outside-in exercise. I'm working on this figure eight. I'm working on that draw up the middle in the hope that I can feel some movement in here as things pass up, softening the chest, raising the head neck. So this overt movement, this external movement, is creating something of an internal connection just by practicing it so much, the big muscles get bored and tired, and the small muscles start to come online. That's kind of the defining methodology of outside-in training, and it's very, very effective, right? From there, we can begin to play with what this is and how to expand it outward. All of you I've seen are starting to get to the point where this roll is beginning to create something of a variable muscular engagement in the middle, right? It's not the same hold. The hold is kind of moving around as you pivot and play with the arms. Is that accurate? Like you're also going to feel something in here that's, not quite a rock, but it's beginning to have some mobile qualities to it. Yeah, and that's wonderful. That takes time, right? What we're working on today, much like our last couple classes, is the raising and lowering of the foot, but we're also going to play with, and Craig did a little bit in Tai Chi last night. It was a chaotic lesson because of the internet, but we'll do it more calmly today, with how we can roll the knee, initiating that either from the knee, feeling it in the middle, or from the middle as it controls the knee. It's one of the first and easiest ways to feel this belly out connection. So start by playing with that for a moment, okay? So standing with the feet together. The first thing we want to do is raise the foot in such a way that we're using those deeper postural muscles, right? The iliopsoas, the obliques, to a lesser extent, the rectus abdominals, the bigger muscles in the front. And so as we start with the feet even, we run through our basic checklist. And we're going to go through it more slowly right now and pay attention to exactly what it does in standing versus, walking or figure eights. As I grab with the feet, I'm not grabbing and creating two stilts. I'm grabbing mostly with the first two toes, the big toe and the second toe immediately adjacent to it. As I grab with those, my weight is going to spread a little bit to the outside of the foot, flowing over to the little toe. My balance is still in the middle, but because of the nature of that grab, there's a little bit of a bowing and arching that occurs in my legs. As the legs kind of spread and press, I begin to feel those adductor muscles come online, and I can carry this pull up about to my mid-thigh pretty easily. From here, things kind of go blank as I go above the mid-thigh into the belly. So to adjust for that, exactly, Carol, I draw the umbilicus towards the spine, and what I want to do is engage until I feel just a little bit of quadricep engagement. Not so much that I'm hunching and tucking the tailbone, but just enough these muscles feel like they're doing something to support me, okay? Once the quadriceps feel like they're online, now that bowl of my pelvis is in place to hold my abdomen, my torso, and everything above. Now that I have that all together, I want to carry things a little higher above that Chinese Yao. For this, I knit those clavicles. As I knit the clavicles, the shoulders shift. It's not a big shift. It's just a little slight concaving, a little slight rounding, enough that I feel I can breathe a little more deeply and a little more easily. It takes pressure off the chest, pressure off the heart. And lastly, the raising of that head and neck towards the ceiling. And so now I have this feeling of drawing from the feet that in a small but significant way is pulling up through the inner legs, rounding the belly, making its way up through the back of the neck and out. And I'm kind of standing stable in the midst of all of that. Next, we want to shift our weight, right? And again, I don't want to do a horizontal shift. That breaks all those connections. Now I'm just lifting from my knee. I don't want to do a pure angular shift. That drops things down too harshly as well, but not as bad as a horizontal shift. I want to continue playing with suspension. And so I'm going to lift with my belly, carrying transverse with my abdominal muscles, and then pressing with my stomach through my hip into the ground as I draw that left inguinal to the inside of my right shoulder and raise my knee just a bit. Hang out here for a second. And then gently oscillate the knee up and down. Notice how the amplitude of my movement isn't very high, right? It's a very small movement. But as I draw that belly to my spine, I can really feel that movement radiating through my stomach, hitting on different places, into the obliques. And if I really push down on that right foot, I can begin to feel it in the paraspinal muscles, the muscles next to my vertebra, in particular the quadratus lumborum, those lumbar muscles that help with posture. And then from there, before I fatigue too much, I'm going to gently put that foot down, return to neutral, take a quick little rock to make everything shake out and relax for a second, run through my checklist again, then do the other side. So again, starting with the feet, belly, to clavicles, softening the chest, raising that head neck, lifting the weight on the right, carrying it transverse and pressing down as that right hip pulls that left shoulder. That press creates space in the hip, raising from the belly as my knee comes off the ground just a smidge. From here, once again, I'm going to play with a little bit of oscillation in the knee and try to feel where in the stomach things are engaging. And again, I want to stop before I begin shaking too much. If I shake a lot, I can't feel those connections anymore. I'm just risking injury at this point. It's time to relax, catch my breath, and then do the other side. You want to go to the point of shaking, but you don't want to go too deep into the shake, okay? Let's try this again on the other side. Now we're going to add in knee circles, which is where things get fun. So again, foot grab, belly draw, clavicle knitting, chest softening, head and neck raising as the weight lifts from the left, travels transverse, very nice, Caro, pressing down into that right leg, freeing that left hip to lift. Go slowly as the knee raises. Try to feel every bit of the musculature you're using as you raise that knee up. Good. And after your knee hits a nice, comfortable range for you, start working on very slow, very small circle external rotations. You can place your hand on your belly. It helps you to feel the movement in the stomach. If you don't feel your stomach active, go ahead and set your leg back down, run through your checklist again, and make sure that abdominal engagement is present as you raise the leg and doesn't dissipate. Notice how as the knee's rolling, the area of engagement in the belly is rolling as well. Is everyone feeling that to an extent? Very nice, very nice. That's the key to this exercise. And then down before we fatigue out too much. Same thing, other side. Foot grab, belly draw, chest concave, clavicles, head neck lifting, raising out of the right, transverse, pressing into the left, creating space now for that right leg to draw up the similar belly feel. And again, this is all outside, then we're gonna do inside out in just a second. Play with that external rotation of the patella of the kneecap. If you're too low, you might not be able to feel it. So in that case, still the leg, engage the belly, raise up a little higher, and then play the circle again until you find a height that isn't too engaging, but at the same time allows you to really feel the mobile nature in the belly of this external rotation. One more circle, and down. Very good. We're going to do internal rotation and talk about this for a quick second, and then go from inside out. The weight settles, foot grab, belly draw, all that stuff for the clavicles and chest, raising the head and neck as the weight lifts. And as you press, play with that pressure down. Take your time. It's not a click release. It's a gradual increase of pressure that dislodges the other leg as you draw the belly in, allowing you to raise that knee slowly up while maintaining your posture. And when that leg rises, we're going to go into our internal rotation. Again, if it's too challenging, you can lower your leg. If you don't feel it, you can raise your leg. Try to find that happy medium. And we're initiating from the patella. And pay attention to the nature of the circle. We're all trying to make our circles circular. And we're all struggling a little because we're drawing kind of a vague shape with the periphery. We're not moving from the middle, right? Recognize that's happening. It's not a problem. But that's what we're going to address when we start moving from the inside out. And one more circle. And the leg settles. Last time in this exercise, grab, engage, knit, soften, lift, raise to core, pressing as that right leg lifts. Last time for outside in, find a comfortable, happy height. And then begin playing with that internal rotation for just a moment here. I feel the belly roll in response to the knee. Very nice. If you can't feel it again, you can go a little more slowly. You can raise fractionally higher. Very nice, Craig. Very solid control and balance. And relaxing down. Good. Shake that out for just a moment. Any questions or comments so far? Okay, so did everyone feel the belly moving as the knee moved? A little bit? Did anyone feel the belly holding like a rock? Is the knee circled? Not so much? Good. Okay, a little bit. We're going to play with this, Eric. So watching me for a second as I run through my checklist, right? Feet, belly, clavicles, chest, head, neck, weight, lifts, draws, sinks, and pours. I raise my leg up. Watch the nature of the circle. If I move outside in from my knee, I can do everything I can to stabilize that circle, but notice how there are areas where it jumps. You all can see that a little bit? It's not completely smooth and round as I move. If I start from the middle and roll from the belly and let the hip listen to the belly, all of a sudden the circle rounds out because it's a projection of that roll from the middle. Pulling the stomach, carrying the knee round and round from that base and down. Does that distinction make sense? So we're going to try to listen to that body feel that we had when the knee was rolling here, and then instead of using the knee to create that body feel, use that body feel to create the knee. Is that confusing, or does that make some sense?
No, it makes sense. I think I was doing like the Kobu Bible mechanic of like clenching the glute and then trying to tense the thigh, but I don't think that engages enough through here.
This is a precursor to what you're working on here. This will make that Kobu Bible mechanic a lot more smooth and a lot more calculatable, okay? So let's play with this together. The weight to even. Any of you have questions, please ask, because this is fairly complex, and I wish I were with all of you in person for this lesson, but it's a ton of fun and very useful for everything we're working on. Grabbing with the toes, drawing the belly, clavicle knit, soften the chest, head, neck, raise as the weight lifts, travels transverse, pours, and feel the belly lifting the leg. The leg isn't lifting to engage the belly is drawing to pull up your thigh. And the challenge here is not to pervert the stance to do that, right? I want to make sure I have that solid, comfortable posture as I roll the belly around, back, and down, creating the counterbalance to raise the leg up. Remember, the Dantian is a sphere, right? It's not a two-dimensional object. If I want to raise the leg up, I have to lift the belly around and back like a suspension bridge to draw the leg up. If I want to roll the leg external, I need to roll the belly to pull the leg, feeling like I'm rolling a ball in the center as the hip rolls to follow. Go slow. Feel that idea of a sphere moving your knee. That sphere that is already rolled up to lift the leg is maintaining that position, and now it's pivoting on a different axis. We're doing different axes of movements on that same sphere, and relax down. Take a second. Does everyone feel like their bellies are just super engaged right now and moving in some fun ways? Is anyone not feeling that? It's looking really good for all of you. Keep taking your time with this. We're going to the other side. It's important to shake it out because you want to start from a nice, relaxed baseline. This is a very muscularly intense movement until you learn how to relax, soften it out, and make it light and easy, which just takes time and practice and repetition. So again, from that foot grab, belly draw, chest softening as the clavicles knit, raising of that head neck, the weight lifts, travels transverse and presses, and as it presses down, the Dantian rolls around and presses back and down like a suspension bridge as the knee raises up. Playing with that roll of the belly on the inside. It's not an external roll of the hips, right? That's a very different thing. It's a roll of the musculature in the middle that helps you to raise that leg. I'm mimicking with my fingers the feeling that I have as the muscles roll up. Again, I know full well there are no spheres of muscle in my stomach, but the group of the connective tissue with muscles and ligaments in there can act like a sphere in how they can raise and manipulate the body. From here, playing with that stomach, rolling, having the knee follow the roll that you're creating in your belly. Feel that roll projecting out. Feel your postural muscles working to keep you engaged, to keep you connected to that center. And relax down. To the middle, we're going to do internal rotation next, then talk about this for a second, and move on to the next exercise. I just want to give you a taster for how you can play with this. Again, feet, belly, clavicles, chest, neck, weight lifts, draws, presses into that left leg. The dantian rolls and presses down as the knee lifts. Taking your time, engaging and drawing for that middle. And before you move your knee, imagine and try to feel the abdominal muscles moving in a circle that would carry that hip. And then slowly begin to ascribe the circle with the joint, following that idea. In my experience, everything from fa li to connected movement requires the idea of it before you can actualize it. You need to kind of imagine it, play with the movement in your mind, try to get that movement in your body, and then slowly make it a thing that you can actually do. Playing with that roll. Belly rolls first, hip and knee moves second. 2 more circles. Last circle, settle. Shift weight one more time, do 1 more of these, then we're gonna take a break. Toes, belly, clavicles, chest, neck, lifting, moving transverse, pressing, freeing the leg to lift. And as that leg lifts, feeling the belly pulling, rolling that dantian, that sphere, as it rolls up and the sphere rolls back. As the sphere rolls back, that's that deep abdominal connection, that psoas connection that helps me to raise the leg. Again, it's not a lift. We're rolling that dantian into that press to raise the knee up. So we've already moved on that horizontal axis, the sphere rolls back. Now, playing with the idea of internal rotation, imagine the belly rolling internally. Try to feel the belly moving away, it'll pull the hip. You might get just a little bit of movement in the beginning. From there, elaborate on that idea and try to smooth out how you can get that sphere of muscle connection to carry the hip in a circle, which will ultimately carry the kneecap in a circle. The belly's engaged the whole time. We still have that draw back, which is supporting our leg, right? So the dantian still rolling back. Now it's rolling on a second axis as we play with the internal rotation on top of that roll back. 2 more circles. And relax down as the belly unrolls to neutral. Shake it out for a second. Any questions about that so far? Yeah, Eric, it's a lot.
Sorry, I stepped away there for a bit. I just remembered something that I wanted to tell my dad for something to pick up from the store, and I know he's making his 1 trip of the day shortly, so I just want to
take care of, and it's entirely cool. Life first.
Yeah.
So, any questions about that roll to lift? How is that feeling for all of you?
That felt good. The bit I caught at the end was like, oh yeah, that totally, I felt that and made sense.
Awesome, awesome. And again, just to cover once more, the dantian isn't a circle, it's a sphere, right? And because it's a sphere, it can roll on any number of infinite axes, right, as you kind of move through. It's easier at the beginning to play with cardinal directions because that's kind of the simplest thing to break down. From there, you can begin going into the angles after basic forward, back, and left, right to kind of start to make sense. And so what we were playing with first and foremost in the exercise was that raising of the leg, right? Went through all of our postural alignment sequence to make sure our body was ready to move from the inside out. From there, that lift press freed the leg that we were going to move. But what we changed for today, the initiation wasn't just a push to the lift. Right now, it was that roll of the belly up. See, it begins to dislodge here, and then that circle down to bring the leg up. So I'm playing with the idea that there's a sphere rolling, and the hip is rolling off a tangent to that sphere. Once I get to that lift, then I can play with, am I rolling internal or external, right? And if I just start wiggling my leg, everything kind of falls apart. So I want to make sure I have that constant draw back from that place of engagement. I then play with my second axis, right? That spin. And so now I have an axis going this way through my belly and an axis going forward back through my belly. The first axis is the axis of lift. The second axis is the axis of hip articulation. I try to maintain both of those holds at the same time to do what is otherwise the very simple action of this. Does that make sense? Any questions so far? Cool. Do all of you feel like you'd be able to practice on your own? Oh, Carol, so I can't hear.
I feel like I don't know if it's like the musculature feels weaker, but I feel like, you know, on like the outside of the thighs, I'm just not quite having that tension. And I'm also noticing that like in the back where I feel it the most is kind of this mid back area, and then it kind of like skips like lower. And I'm wondering if you have any.
Great, great. Start with the leg a little lower.
Okay.
Take your time of rolling and back to press as the leg lifts. This in and of itself is an exercise that you can spend weeks playing with to really understand and develop. And much like Fa Li, right? Once you can Fa Li in one direction, as you experience, Fa Li in other directions becomes really easy comparatively, right? It's kind of that first grasp of this is the concept in motion, now I can morph it. The same thing is true with Dantian rolling. Once you can lift in one direction smoothly, then it's just taking that idea and bringing different muscles online to do the same action in different angles. And then the study is, you know, once I get two directions down, then can I play with the angles in between, and how can I find exercises that gradually build and build and build until this idea of a sphere becomes a functional sphere for my movement.
Cool. Yeah, I was already feeling it lower, so.
Great. Yeah, and again, there's no, you know, the height of the knee, the amplitude of the circle is irrelevant when compared to the body feel. So as long as you're working on that connection from the inside out, everything will branch off of time. If you hit a strong impasse, you just plateau for a while, that's a great time for us to talk and find, you know, little tricks you can do to help move beyond it. But you're all looking really good in the first stages here. This is super important stuff for our Taiji, for our Bagua, our Shuai Jiao. If that belly can roll under, everything else can roll on top. You see how this, the aesthetic of a basic swaying movement has that complete connection from the ground to the arms because everything is coming off of here, right? And as I move to my middle, I have a lot more power than if I'm kind of flailing out with the extremities, okay? So let's move on for a second. Let's start questions. We're gonna play with the Xingyi we did last class. Sound good? Awesome. Starting once again with Old Tiger. And so we're going to work on the coordinated movement, and then we're going to try to put it together and maybe add some Fa Li in a second. And so again, for Tiger, there's the parting of the grass, the pulling of the foot, and the roll through. Let's give that a try together. I'm going to do facing the camera for a couple, then lengthwise I can fit a couple more in. So again, with that right foot forward, as the hands reach towards that back leg, the front leg steps to the side. So once again, we're here. Our stance, just for those of you who haven't done Xingyi in the past, is a 70-30, 70 back, 30 front. The back foot is about a 45-degree angle. The front foot is perpendicular with the lateral aspect as the perpendicular part of the angle. As I step to the side, I'm pulling the arms across as I step and back. Step and pull and set. Step and pull, good, and set. Now we add the next piece. Step, pull, and as we continue that pull through the belly, that round pulls the hip up. Good. And back. Step, draw, continue that pull as I draw the foot up. Good, Kara. So Kara, let's move together. Don't worry about the right or left. I'm going to step one direction, pull angular the other direction. So I step out, I'm pulling towards the back foot. As I pull towards that back foot, I draw that back foot up and the hands come to the middle. Good, and I'll face away from you for one. As I step to the side, pull, draw. And again, step, pull, draw. All of you give that a try? Good. So to help a little bit, let's talk about what we're doing with these hands as we pull. There's something coming in at us, we're clearing it to the side. And so in defense, there's primary and secondary defense, right? Primary is getting yourself out of the way. Secondary is putting something between you and the offending thing, right? And so in Tiger, we're doing both primary and secondary defense in one movement. The step is the primary defense. The hand movement is the secondary defense, okay? So a person's coming in, we're stepping to the side and guiding them into that space that we once were, like the bullfighters. Once again, there you go, we clear to the side, and then we're drawing up. That bent leg steps out, strike. For combat application, just kind of add some context to all of this. Because Tigers practiced in a line, but performed in a circle, right? The drills are back and forth. The actual application, this is my target coming in at me. I move to the side, then use this coil, see, to square off with the target, and then there would be the strike, right? Whereas in the practice of Tiger, you know, I don't actually have a target, I'm just rolling and moving in a straight line, right? So again, if there were actually, you know, a target coming in, I would clear, square off, and then move straight towards. Does that distinction make sense?
Well, yeah, that has yet a third advantage of then you're attacking from a different angle than what they were expecting originally.
Exactly. And that is the cool part of Xingyi. It is rapid, angular, explosive, and mean. So again, we're playing with this first, that drawing to the side, pulling off center, drawing that foot up, and then step out, 1, 2. Good. Same leg, a couple more times. Step and draw. Pull and coil, step through and strike. Good. Once we're in this pace, I'm going to talk about the footwork for a second. Step and pull. Step through and strike. Good. There are 3 main steps in Xingyi. Ye, Jin, and Gen. Okay? The Yebu is the step to the side. It's that changing of angle step. The Jinbu is that closing of distance step. The Genbu is that back foot coming in as our mobile scaffolding. And there are lots of ways to describe that back foot as an accordion, as the plunger on a syringe. The idea is that back foot comes into place, everything else can then express forward. If I were just here, I'd be split forward and back. There wouldn't be that same delivery of power. As that foot comes in, everything slides with, and the power becomes evident. Right? So again, that first step, Yebu, we clear to the side, drawing up. The Jinbu explodes forward, it's got half struck. And then as the Genbu comes in, boom, that becomes the strike. Okay? So strike actually takes 2 steps, terminating at the end of that final step. Let's try again, really slow because the timing is tricky in the beginning. Yebu, step to the side. Good. For that Yebu, we draw up. As I step out, my hands begin to expand. As that back foot pulls in, the hands continue for the strike. Good. Obviously, at full speed, it's just one continuous movement, but it's nice to understand how it breaks down first. Twice more on the side, and the other side. Yebu, pulling. Jinbu, Genbu. Good. Very nice, Craig. Very nice. Once more on the side. There you go, Eric. Very good. Yebu. Pull. Stepping through. Jingen. Good. Now, Eric, real quick. As you roll, don't let the shoulders come to your ears. Don't let this happen. Make sure the roll comes from a deeper place. Okay? It's okay to have fluid movement. Just make sure it's always rolling back to that belly as you move from side to side. Very nice, Eric. Very nice. Let's try the other side.
Joey, at the final Ginbu, it's kind of cascading up your back.
Absolutely. And real quick with Tiger, before we go to the other side, there are 3 main heights a tiger can strike, right? Tiger can strike low, tiger can strike middle, tiger can strike high. The defining point is that coil, right, which is in effect a Dantian roll going into that strike. Does that make sense? Awesome. And again, you are all now equipped to again playing with a Dantian roll into a strike, which is a nifty and cool place to be in your training. So with the other foot forward, press. Press and step, Yebu. Draw the foot up. Stepping through, Jingen. Good. And again, Yebu, pull. Drawing up, Jingen. Very nice. Couple more. Getting smoother. Yebu, pull. Jingen. Now the Genbu, make sure that the heel is on the ground as you strike out. Do not make the mistake I made at the grave cleaning ceremony of 2015. Step, pull, feet come together, step strike. Good. Couple more. 1, draw. Continue that draw through. So notice how it's a cascade of roll for the belly. Watch me once. I draw, here's that roll starting. That roll continues all the way through to the Jingen. There's no break. It's a constant flow. 1, 2, right? 1 count, 1 sequence in the end. So again, nice and slow twice more, then we'll go more quickly. Yebu, pull, draw, step, strike. Last time slow. Yebu, draw, pull, and strike. Very nice. Any questions before we smooth this out a little bit?
I'm just curious how, like, from that end posture of here, like, if you're then taking a step forward to go into your next.
Great question. I think I have enough space to demonstrate. So I'll go for a small step. So it goes right into the next step.
Okay, so like the foot that ends up a little bit forward at the end, you're just making that your forward foot and like go.
As I roll. Okay, so the foot's kind of snaking across.
Okay.
Does that help? Awesome. Let's give this a try. 1, rolling all the way through to strike. 2, rolling all the way through. 3, good. I'm gonna go sideways. The tiger clears the grass, coils, pounces. Clears the grass, coils, pounces. And for those of you who've done this for a little while, play with how the press to lift creates an actual pounce, right? As I come through that Jinbu, can cover a fair bit of ground as I draw from the belly and express forward. Make sense? Clear through, clear through. Another thing that helps out quite a bit, watch the hands. It'll help you turn your spine, coil more deeply as you roll in, and then look at the target. Watch the hands as you coil and set, target as you strike. Hands as you coil, target as you strike. Gonna try a couple more times? Good, Caro. Good, Craig, as you pull, make sure you're drawing into your belly. pop. There you go. Touch on that dantian, pop out from that dantian. There, that's it. Everything comes back to the tummy. The tummy is key. Good, let's do 10 more of these together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good, keep going. 6, 7, 8, 9. Very solid start, very solid start. You keep playing with this one, but everyone's looking really good. Is it cool if we go 2 minutes longer just to do a quick little touch on dragon? Yeah? Also, make sure we see dragon again. We're not going to do a lot with it. I just want to kind of review it once more, okay? So whereas tiger is horizontal to vertical, right? Horizontal draw, vertical application. For dragon, it's that vertical to level shift sink. A little bit horizontal coil into that sink. We're starting nice and slow, facing towards me. The hands coil. You can have an external figure eight if you want, but it's enough the hands just roll in the beginning. As they draw, the foot comes up, kick, turn, the hip shifts, rolling, now I'm rolling horizontally into that sink, sinking down. And I can drop all the way, or just a little depending on my relative knee health and leg strength. From here, that front leg takes a little step forward. As it does, I clear to the side, pulling the hip up. The foot raises as the hand raises. Hands are palm up here. They're turning as I step, foot turns out, palms turn down, dragging down to the ground. Dragon drags. As I step up, that front foot takes a little step, roll, lifting, kick, up and over, sinking down. 2 more together. As I raise up, little yebu. So the yebu again creates that split. From that split, I draw, raise. There's my kick, punching straight up. The hands turn as I step, and I'm pulling the arm of my partner in as I draw their nose to the ground. Raising up, a little bit of yebu, clear. 2 more together. Lifting the leg, kick, stepping out as the hands turn, drawing to the hip draws in, pulling the partner to the ground. Stepping up, yebu, coil, drawing up, kick, turn, sink. And relax and shake it out. Dragon's tough.